Hi guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and today we're welcoming on Bryan McInerney. Now, Bryan is an old friend of mine that I met in the Powerhouse gym. He's a coach here, as well as being a hurling at high level in Clare at the moment. So I wanted to bring him on to basically chat about a couple of different things, maybe around mindset, maybe around relationships, talking about coaching, I guess relationship with clients, as well as looking at maybe health and longevity and what that means to him. So first off, Bryan, thanks a million for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So I guess what we'll do is we'll start off with a bit of an introduction. Do you mind kind of talking a small bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, what you've been working at the last couple of years, and maybe suppose lead that into the fitness games and what you did there. How is that all right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so I'm from County Clare, a village, I suppose a parish known as Clooney. I play hurling with the club. I've literally played with the club, I suppose, my whole life. I work in the Powerhouse gym. Obviously, that's where we met. And I've been coaching for the last 8 to 10 years, I suppose.
Nice. And in the last year, you jumped on that games, the Powerhouse games. Do you want to talk a small bit about what that was? I guess what it entails, what the training was leading up to it, why you did it. And kind of talk a small bit around that maybe.
Yeah, 100%. So the games, I suppose where we work and the type of workouts and the type of training that we actually run and program ourselves here in the Powerhouse, it's very much functional fitness. Now I know that phrase and that term is kind of thrown around a lot. You know, what is functional fitness? But essentially, look, it is a mix of different modalities, different types of training, whether it's cardio, strength, and all the other things in between. So we had been programming, I suppose, those type of workouts for a long time. And we had an interest in it as well ourselves. Myself and Ronan Monaghan, and in fairness, he was the instigator. He was the hungry bull. He was eager to get going. He signed us up to a competition back in 2021. We were due to compete in April in a double team, a team of two. But we both basically got injured heading into that event, and we were probably a little bit under prepped. So we decided to I suppose pause, not rush ourselves, and we pushed it out for a full year. In pushing it out, we decided to rope in two ladies that we actually coach here in the gym. And we suddenly had a team of 4, a mixed team of 4, so we had 2 females, 2 males. And that competition basically went down in early April 4th, I think it was. And that was of this year. We came third, unbelievable event, loads of fun. Would 100% do it again. Yeah.
What is in the competition? What do you have to do? Is it CrossFit style? I know you said it's that functional fitness style, but is that closer to CrossFit, you could say?
It is closer to CrossFit. You might have heard the phrase before, it's CrossFit without the bullshit. It kind of strips back, I suppose, movements that are very hard to scale, very hard for anyone to just pick up and try out. So I suppose the skill level does drop back a little bit. Now you're still completing barbell lifts, you're still completing Olympic lifts, but it just takes everything down another notch. So it becomes far more accessible for all types of athletes, whether it's general population, whether it's your GAA style athlete, whether it is your functional fitness athlete, and then a little bit beyond that again. It's 3-tier broken. So you have elites, you have, let's call them everyday athletes, and then you have more so novices, beginners. Okay, the elites are their standard was unbelievable. They are literally on the cusp of professional CrossFit athletes, really high standard. The everyday athlete, that category was known as the open. So that's actually the category we took part in. Again, a pretty high standard. And a nice bit of skill work required, technical work required, and then obviously, as I mentioned, you have your novice base. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And with it, then I suppose, how did you get on in the competition? What I know you came third overall. What were challenges in it? What were things that maybe popped up that were a small bit unexpected? Is it something that anyone that's listening to this could do you think?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think obviously you need to have a little bit of structure within your training. You need to, I suppose, eat the right way. You need to mind yourself, you need to manage yourself, and you need to commit. You do need to put in the reps, the days, the sessions. It does take a lot of work. And obviously the 3 guys that I competed with, they'll tell you that themselves. Sorry, I forgot to mention, I suppose you asked what kind of workouts, what kind of style is a CrossFit and all that. I didn't really dive too deep into that. It is functional fitness, there is mixed modalities, as I said earlier, different types of training. You have your strength, you have your conditioning, you have your, I suppose, your speed style work, and then again that little bit of skill. The event we took part in, we had 4 main workouts. We had a strength workout, we had a endurance workout, we had a speed style workout, and then the final one was just basically hell. It was pure donkey work. in reality, it was absolute donkey work, real just kind of grunt work, heavy sandbag lifts, a real slog. Funnily enough, we won that event out actually. That specific one, we won that category out, that final event.
The cold cheese.
Yeah, the cold cheese, that's what we said. The 4 bagels below from Galway and Clare. Everyone else was, Dublin and English and yeah.
And with it then, I suppose, I think, I know I wanted to roll into a small bit about mindset and the mindset coming into it, but from your own position, considering the year that you had before it and the year of it, do you feel that kind of played into it a small bit with the obstacles you had to overcome the year before? Do you think that was kind of more of a challenge that you set out to yourself to say, right, I'm gonna look to work and see what I can do in this position, or put in a serious effort and see what I can do with my body now over the next couple of months? Was that something that came to mind at all?
On a personal level?
On a personal level for you?
100%. Maybe not right away, but deep down it more than likely was. I suppose for a lot of your listeners, if they don't know this, and I'm sure many of them don't, I had a spell of cancer. I won't go into the details. Overcame it, very, very lucky in my situation. Had all the support in the world. And I suppose when you're hit with something that can cause a setback, mentally and physically, all you want to do is get back to feeling your best, or get back to feeling like you can produce, I suppose, achieve your potential essentially that was it. Like to give I suppose people another example is, you ever have a cold, like a flu, and you feel like shit, and you're in bed and you feel like rubbish, and then you take it for granted those days when you feel normal and you feel great, and you're able to wake up and you have your energy levels right, and it's until you're hit with a flu or a cold that you take it all for granted, and you're like, oh my god, I wish I felt 100% again. And it's the very same if you get hit with any sickness. I think all you want to do is get back to feeling good again. And I suppose, as you said there, that was a driver.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky. I had the lads in the powerhouse, support me all the way. They were unbelievable. They drove it. They were putting the arm around me, carrying me through workouts, getting back to fitness, and even just their dialogue with me, it was all positive. It was just pure reinforcement. Yeah.
Good, yeah. And I suppose to talk a small bit about the, we won't go into a lot of detail on it, but I guess the chemo side of things, how did you find that?
You know what, I was so hungry to get it done and dusted. I was like, yeah, bring it on. Like, I can't wait to just knock this out and get on with life.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. And I kind of was, I just wanted it to start and just attack it and get it done with. Once I actually began, again, we don't need to go into too much detail. I found it a lot tougher than I expected. On a physical level, not so much. I wasn't sick. I wasn't, vomiting or anything like that. Obviously, there is physical side effects, but on a mental level, it really affected me. I just struggled to, I don't know, stay proactive or stay productive. And I probably expected too much of myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So And with it then, like what type of symptoms were you getting, or what was, I know you were saying like motivation was lacking. Did you ever find that your mood was dipping a lot? How was that side of things?
Yeah, the mood. Yeah, your mood would be up and down. I mean, you'd wake up and you might feel great for an hour, and then all of a sudden you're just your energy levels just go from 100 back to 0. You know, you're just flat. You're flat, and I suppose your mood follows that. You don't feel 100, because you're physically, I suppose, unable to get around. You know, and to do all these things that you'd like to do. Your mood is a little bit dampened, and it's, you just kind of have to get on with it, don't you? I don't really know how to dive much deeper into that. Again, I'd try and watch, I don't know, like movies and things like that, and just kind of get through the day.
Yeah.
I suppose I had plans on, I had real good plans going into it, in terms of, I'm gonna read XYZ, I'm gonna listen to this podcast, and this podcast. I'm gonna work on little skills in life that I wanted, you know, whether it was whatever it might have been, or self-knowledge, basically up my self-knowledge. But I found all those things really hard to do, you know, listen to a podcast or to read a good book that I had planned on reading. I found it pretty much near impossible. I didn't have the mental clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with it then, did you notice that, like, was there certain obstacles or certain times that you had to overcome, and that you kind of, when you look back at it now, you're thinking, Jesus, that was a real turning point, or that was a real, like, I don't know how I got over that part of it, or something like, let's say we'll look at kind of the darker times and the lighter times. Was there certain things that you were like, Jesus, when I look back on that now, and I look at the state of mind I was in, and I was looking at kind of my physical health and all that, I don't know how I got through that, or I don't know how I got through it, but I guess points along the way that may have stood out to you more than other ones is what I'm looking for here at the moment. Is there anything that sticks out and you were like, Jesus, that was tough when I look back on it, or I noticed that once I got to this point that everything started to kind of come together, or things started to work for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think the first, just I suppose, as you said that, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the initial moments, I suppose, when I began to find out the bad news.
Yeah.
Okay. Funnily enough, and you'll know this well, when in November 2020, myself and the lads of the Powerhouse, we came up with that charity event, okay, Rovember, and it was the real tough one that we did. It was that we basically individually rode the length of Ireland over the course of 30 days. And on day like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, obviously, if you can recall the row, it was row every single day, and you had to row 1,000 kilometers for each day of the month. So if it was day 16, you had to row 16 kilometers. So there were long stints on the row.
1,000 meters.
Yeah. But it was 16k on that day, and then 17k on the next day, and 18k, and it continued to build. So each day it was like a mental, physical challenge, literally really tough. And going into day 20, on the 19th of November, I started feeling, I suppose, abdominal pains, you know, kind of stomach pains and cramps, and I didn't really know what it was, and I thought, okay, maybe this is something to do with the row, maybe I'm overdoing it, maybe I'm pushing myself too hard, maybe my recovery isn't all there, maybe I'm not sleeping enough. And on day 20 we had all planned on meeting up, and which we did, and we had a 20k row planned. And going into that session, I didn't feel too well, but I just did it anyway. You know, you think, typical Irish lads, you know, let's just do it, like put the shoulder to the wheel and get on with it, like just being stubborn really. For the next 10 days we rode close to maybe 8 marathons or so, you know, roughly speaking, which was huge. And again, I was carrying a little bit of pain throughout every single one of those rows. I didn't really understand what the problem was until maybe a week after November, so maybe the first week of December, I decided, okay, I'm going to go get checked because I still have the pain. Now, prior to this, I thought most of the pain I was having was due to the road, that all of this mileage I was putting on the body. So first week in December, I decided to visit my doctor, and I'm told the bad news basically. he's pretty straight about it. He tells me you need to cancel everything. You need to go to the hospital. Now, I didn't want to upset anyone. I didn't want to panic my family. So I kept it to myself for maybe 3 days, 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
But at this stage, and you'll remember this because I had to ring you up and I said, Robbie, can you actually cover me? Can you cover a day or two coaching for me? And you were like, no problem. And yeah, it was great. And that was covered, I suppose. So I suppose the boys in the powerhouse knew I wasn't feeling well. But no one else. So for 3 days, two days anyway, I'm not sure, I kind of kept that to myself, and I had the bad news. And then once, I had completed a few tests, it was official, like that you've got XYZ, okay. And that kind of was one of the most, I suppose, it was a frightening time, I suppose, because you're carrying the news yourself. That was one of the moments, as you asked, that stood out to me. And I suppose those 2 or 3 days where you're I probably just should have spoke to more people, like my brothers, my parents, obviously, and I obviously told everyone. But it's, again, you can't really. It's very hard to know how to react to these things. You think you're invincible. You're after completing this big, massive role for charity. You're. I would have considered myself a fit individual, or an athletic individual, and then all of a sudden you're hit by a truck.
Yeah.
That was difficult. That was one of those moments.
At the time it happened, I had never seen you fitter before. That's what I would think was crazy. Like, at the time that it did come to light, probably at the fittest that I'd ever seen you from when you were training here, or from when we started kind of training together. And I thought that was a real shock to me when I found out. Anyway, how was it? I know that this is kind of going away from a small bit away from. We'll get back to the other thing, but how was it then? I guess broaching your parents and saying it to them.
It was killer. I mean, it's the last thing. It's the last thing your parents want to hear.
Yeah.
I was blessed. I had a family member of mine actually do it for me. I couldn't do it. I just physically couldn't. I knew how my parents would react, like any parents.
Yeah.
They'd be very upset. So I got basically my cousin to do it for me.
Okay.
I asked, he it just kind of worked out in a funny way. He was ringing me and he was wondering, do you want to go for a puck? Do you want to go hang out?
Yeah.
And I said, I can't. And he was plaguing me. And he was like, what? Like, he was, where the F are you? Like, what are you at? Man.
Yeah.
He thought I was off, God knows, gallivanting somewhere. And I just had to tell him straight out there and then. I think the trickiest part of all of that, now that you mention it, was lockdown. We were in lockdown. No one could actually go into hospitals. So I couldn't see my parents.
Yeah.
I couldn't actually meet anyone. So all of a sudden, you're told, okay, you've cancer. You can't see any of your family. You're going to have an operation in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
That was tough. Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't even get back? You didn't even get back to the house at the time to tell him? No, you weren't around or you were in hospital when they found out, or did you?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Once they found out, it was a phone call. I could only reach them through a phone call.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's tough. Yeah, that's tough going.
And you know what? I was okay with it. I was, I kind of accepted my fate. I was quick to turn around. It was tough.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I was able to. And again, I'm lucky. I had people around me, really good supportive people, and I had a good I had a good culture created, I suppose, from this facility. Hanging around with the likes of yourself or lads that were, really positive, and reinforce. We're always able to reinforce the right strategies or use the right tools to, I suppose, accept things and then get on with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of had accepted it. I remember actually writing down in a little like notebook for myself, I've never seen a wild thing feel sorry for itself, that quote.
Yeah.
Which I'd heard numerous times over the years, and it just it was the first thing that came to me, get over yourself a little bit here. This is only a small thing. You'll get over it. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of, yeah.
No, that's a tough situation to be in, and I can remember being on the call with you when you had said it after, and it wasn't about you at all, which I thought was an interesting perspective. It wasn't. I was asking how you doing, how you feeling, how's the head, and all that. And I remember you saying to me, "It's not me that I'm worried about; it's my mother." the time.
Yeah, sorry, that's exactly what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. So I wasn't really too pushed about my own kind of feelings in ways. I was really thinking about how they would feel.
Yeah.
And how my mother would feel. And how upset she might become because of it all. And obviously, like every family, I think everyone is affected by, cancer, and everyone's affected by these things. So it hits home with a lot of people.
Definitely,
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose then, I guess moving on from there, we went down that alleyway with the intention of talking about maybe how it affected your mindset afterwards, and kind of bouncing back from it, and then looking into the future a small bit more, how that may have shifted or changed your mindset. Do you feel it did? Do you feel it's had an effect on you since, with how you approach obstacles, how you approach situations, or are you still kind of reflecting on it at the moment?
Probably a bit of both. Probably a bit of both. As you said there, was there moments in time that you found that stood out to you most? And I think heading into 2021, I knew I had to do a round or two of chemo. So I had kind of banked that in my mind, and I said, okay, when the time comes, I'm just gonna attack that, get it done. So I remember heading into middle of January, and we had basically decided to move ship out of Ireland out of nowhere, and we basically all headed to Tenerife, myself, yourself, and obviously two other friends of ours, and I suppose I needed that time to break up accept it all.
A good transition period.
Yeah. Heading into later in the year, once I had completed the chemo, I suppose I came away from that, and I thought to myself, okay, I can take on anything now. I can take on anything, whether it's difficult training, whether it's whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Just I felt, I suppose you do feel stronger. Like, you do feel stronger when you come away from it. You mentally you feel stronger.
Yeah.
Obviously physically you have to recuperate, but mentally you do believe, okay, if I can get over that, I can get over so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose it did build up. It armoured the mind.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Calloused mind, as David Goggins say.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
sorry, I don't know if that answers.
It does, no, it does, and I think what I was going to say after that then, or what I was going to move to, is, do you feel then, looking down the road, now that you kind of have a better idea of, well, I suppose you know where your limits are not at this stage, you know how much you've gone past them, so what would you be looking at doing down the road? Is there anything that you'd be thinking, geez, I'd love to give that a go, I'd love to try that out? I know you've done the National Fitness Games and the Rows, that are both serious tasks. Has there ever come to mind anything that you'd be thinking, Jesus, that's the next obstacle, that's the next thing to overcome now? In your personal life, physical life, or not personal life, and let's say physically, maybe something that you would be looking to train for, or it could be that it's a new avenue that you'd like to go down.
Yeah, big question. Do you know what? There is and there isn't. I'd love to climb a few of the major mountains in the world. Why not? You only get one chance to do all those things. So maybe something on those lines.
Bit of big wave surfing.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see about that. I don't know. Big wave surfing now. I don't know.
It could be wild.
Maybe. Look, that's definitely an area I'd like to continue to grow and get better at. I mean, again, I've a good little community of friends around me that have really helped me develop in that area. But I think that could be a step too far. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe some mountains. I suppose traveling a little bit more. Maybe pursue a little bit more of the National Fitness Games style workouts and those competitions. They're a lot of fun. I love taking part in them with a team.
Yeah.
I can't imagine myself doing it individually. I wouldn't have the graw for it. I think as a team, yeah, all the way. And probably that's probably built into me because of GAA and like sport and soccer and all these things you do when you're young and having friends. So yeah, I'd like to pursue more of them. I think they're a lot of fun. I think when you like myself, when our I suppose GAA careers slowly finish up, and hopefully that's not anytime soon.
Yeah,
I can see personally. I can see that functional fitness will grow and continue to grow. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the last 2 years of lockdown or 3 years, we've seen a huge jump in people's approach to fitness.
Yeah,
it's far more accessible. People do have an interest into it. People have more knowledge, and yeah, I think it's an area that will grow.
Yeah, there's definitely something to look into as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I can see that happening, and I think the idea of even those obstacle races like Hell and Back, Tough Mudder, stuff like that
100%,
is you can see it's growing in popularity massively. Every year there's obviously more, and there's a nice gang going from the gym here this year as well, which I might join as well depending on the football. But yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I suppose really that was a big question of what you'd be looking at, what kind of what's the next thing. I think I probably scale it back a small bit and ask you, what's your approach? How has your approach changed to looking at an obstacle now? How has your approach changed to, let's say, with the fitness games where you have to lay out a bit of a plan and put it in place? The same thing as with the gym and just keeping and because there's always a good energy in the gym and keeping things always moving well there. How has your approach changed in the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years, even just before that, even talking about COVID and how things were locked down, to making a plan, developing a plan and kind of pushing it forward and pushing it through for yourself or even clients?
Yeah, okay. I think just you mentioned lockdown, how did my approach change going into that? I think routine and habits became of more importance. I needed them. I think, like a lot of people, I needed them a lot during lockdown. An excuse to train was my kind of mindset, in the middle of lockdown.
Yeah,
I needed it to kind of just feel like as if you're moving forward, and I think that's what maybe that's what fitness does for a lot of people, or not just fitness like the gym. I'm talking about sport. It gives us this idea, and it's concrete. It gives us this idea that we are moving forward, that we are progressing in life. So my mindset mightn't have changed too much on that level. Yeah.
Would you have another level of confidence going into it, do you feel?
Maybe. Once you put the time in, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to
answer that one.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed too much. I do understand what you're saying. I suppose the mind has been calloused. You do have this kind of, you do feel a little bit stronger heading into things because you think you can just take it all on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. Do you feel like it's more optimistic in the outcome?
Yeah, 100%. I love the idea of just stepping outside of your comfort zone. I don't think there's anything I've ever done in life where I've where it's pushed me a little bit and then I've regretted it.
Yeah.
If you look at the 2 row events that we've completed, they were torture. They were literally a pain in the arse. But when you come away from them, like, you're happy out. You're so content that you took part, or that you got yourself through it. There was an old thing I used to say to myself, lean into it. I think I read it from a book. Lean into the pain, lean into the event, lean into the workload that you have. Accept that you have to do it. I think that's one side of it. I think that whole phrase, lean into it, it kind of stems from the idea that you chose to be here, you chose to do this. I chose to sit on a rower. It's the very same for any of the events. We chose to take part in the NFG, the National Fitness Games, and I remember hanging off the edge of an air bike or under a barbell, and I was thinking, sweet Jesus, what am I doing here? And then you're just reminded. You think to yourself, this is why we do it. And I remember Ronan Monaghan. I remember when we both finished it and we were throwing our bags into the room. We just looked at each other and we were thinking, Jesus, thank God we did that.
Yeah.
And when you have that moment where you're really grateful that you decided to push yourself that little bit, it blanks out everything else. It's complete positive focus, When you have those moments, you then think to yourself, why did I ever doubt it? Why did I ever think about not doing it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Exactly. No, that does.
A bit of waffle there now, but yeah.
Not at all. Jesus, no, not at all. I think that, because that's what I was actually going to dig into, is that mindset around it. What is it? And I think it's been stepping outside your comfort zone, stepping kind of outside the box a small bit, and seeing if you can test yourself. I think a lot of people get confident in their comfort zone, and then I think some people don't even see the walls of their own comfort zone. I think that's a big problem. I think that's why coaching works so well for a lot of people as well, is that, like, I know there's, let's say, certain people that I would have worked with who say, oh, I don't swim because I was afraid of swimming or something like that. And then as you go through it, they're thinking, oh, what would you like to do? Oh, I'd like to do a triathlon. But there's a fairly significant portion of that's swimming to get through it. So they just write off a triathlon straight away. Do I want to go to a certain place and I want to do somewhere that's, whether if you're staying at a hotel and there's a pool there, whatever it is, I think a lot of people don't even notice it because they become so conditioned to what their comfort zone is. They don't really notice, okay, maybe I actually should take on swimming a small bit more. Maybe I should push it on. And I think a lot of the time, until somebody else says it to you, it's difficult to notice. I think we can be great at pointing out other people's, where their comfort zone is and where they lack in pushing themselves. But I think the self-awareness is it can be difficult as well to kind of figure that out and really look at yourself and reflect on yourself and see where you are limiting yourself and what you are limiting yourself from doing. I don't know I know you do look into, or you do a lot around self-awareness and reflection and that. How do you work on that yourself? Like, what strategies do you use? What techniques do you use? Is there anything that you may have read in the past or picked up in the past in terms of improving your self-awareness? And maybe improving your self-awareness around the limits that you have, but just improving self-awareness specifically.
A few different areas. I think you mentioned having a coach is vital. It can be a great tool to have, to be able to collaborate with someone who's going to push you that little bit. I think what's even better is sometimes, and it's kind of 50-50, sometimes having a coach is a great thing, but I think having a really good environment or a really good training partner, for example, can be just as good, if not better. So having those people, basically building an environment of people around you that drives that level of discomfort. It constantly keeps the pressure on, the squeeze on, and there's nothing wrong with it. At the end of the day, we're humans. We can just say, look, I need to step back. I need to push forward. We can choose whether we want to push the pedal or not. I think I had that with the lads here. Training has just been through the roof when we needed it. Someone to push me. I watch some of the clients. Sometimes they motivate me, because of their level of interest or their level of effort. And again, having the right friends and family that kind of are willing to back you if you have an idea, and they're willing to call you on your kind of your BS, like. And that's one area, having a really solid concrete environment.
Yeah,
that just drives the right type of focus. Now, obviously, how do you find that environment is a big thing. I think what I just said there can often go to the wayside, because some people are like, well, how do I create that environment?
Yeah,
you can start really small. You could just join a training community, or you can just find something you're interested in and figure out how to become part of it. Whether that is water sports, whether that is running. If it's running, start running 5Ks. You might meet someone on the road. All of a sudden, you get to know that person. You start running with that person, and then like your level, you go up a level. So yeah, environment's huge.
Just on that point, before you jump on to the next one, and just keep the other one in mind. Around environment and around creating a circle, we talk about this a lot. It's actually one of the first things that we had, I suppose we kind of connected on when you started working here at the gym, because initially I was here to start, and then Bryan came in, and now Bryan's the big man here and I'm gone, so
that's pretty much it.
It's taking it to a new level. But basically, I was going to say to you, creating that circle, we talk about law of attraction a lot, or we would have at the start initially. I think that being aware that when you are kind of getting an idea of what you want to do or what you want to focus on, you can surprise yourself, or the, I don't know, the universe or the world or whatever way you want to put it, can surprise you sometimes in what it brings to you. And I think that we need to really look at what we're putting out a small bit. If you want to, like, are you putting out the idea of, okay, I want to train, but I also want to, let's say, drink whatever 4 days a week, and I still want to play the PlayStation or play Xbox 3 or 4 days a week, and I want to do all these other things. And look at the lifestyle and the people that you hang around with is kind of what I'm getting at here. And are they in line with the life you want to live, or are they bringing you in opposite direction? And I think if you look at it that way, and if you look at kind of where you want to get to, well, all right, I want to be able to run a 5K comfortably. Well, obviously first you have to start running a 5K. And as you said then, maybe you might meet someone on the road who makes it that bit easier. I think not enough people are, and me included, I can be bad for this sometimes. I fall in and out of it, and it's something that I try to really practice and develop or refine, is that getting a clear idea in your head of what you want to do and where you want to go, and then just going with the flow after that. But making sure that you're not, if something does come up and it's moving you in that right direction, that you're not ignorant to it and say and just letting it by the wayside and letting it slide. On what level do you think that comes into it, with kind of thinking where you want to be and what you want to be doing, and then going with the flow and letting the I want to use the word the universe, but letting whatever it is kind of help you get into the right path?
Yeah. Sorry, what was your question again there? What was the direct question?
The question is basically, how much of a role do you think that plays in that? Okay. You actually have to think about, you need to know where you're trying to get to, or do you think that you can just start out blind and let it work once you have the right, well, I suppose once you have the right value structure in place?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you do have to, sometimes you do have to put pen to paper. I think sometimes we get so lost in our minds of what we want, we don't really know, and it's all upstairs. It's literally in the 4 inches, between our ears. We don't really know. So sometimes writing it all down, it creates clarity. It gives you that tangible, product right in front of you. And then sometimes, all of these things, as you had mentioned, all of these things that we want, you can rearrange the order and see what fits on, see what really should be on top of the list.
Yeah.
So that's number one, maybe just jotting it all down. I think it does play a big part, as you mentioned, in terms of, putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
I think it does go lost in a lot of people in terms of how powerful our mind is to attract the right things.
Yeah, yeah.
And in saying that, I know there's probably a big argument on the law of attraction, on whether or not it's real, or whether or not it's something that you can put your trust into, or your life into. But it does have an effect, and I think if you're open-minded and you're willing to actually put in the work, then you see the benefits. You see these small little changes occur.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've just, I suppose, put myself out there. I spoke to the right people, or I've got in touch, communicated with people, like literally sent someone a text, and then all of a sudden it comes back to me to say, okay, like it opened the door basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember I wanted to get really good at something. This is a true story. I wanted to get really, really good at something. I was highly passionate about it. And I had mentioned it to quite a few people. I was kind of throwing it out there because I wanted to see if they knew anyone, or, X, Y, Z. And all of a sudden, we had someone painting the building next to us. And he had heard that I had been interested in this specific topic. He comes to me,
no,
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But anyway, he comes to me and he starts to tell me about, that he's basically as good as a professional in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden he became a friend of mine, and I was able to utilise him and utilise his skill set to better myself. So, yeah.
And the thing is,
But again, I had to put in the work to better myself. You can't just expect it to happen. The universe won't.
It's not just going to fucking land things. Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to touch on. Some people believe, why isn't the universe helping me out here?
Yeah.
But you have to put in the reps. You have to put in the work.
That's it. Like, yeah, that's like the guy who. What's the story? The guy who was basically praying to God every day to win the lotto. Have you ever heard that story about the guy? Basically, he's praying every single day to God to win the lotto. Okay. I really need to, I need the money. I need to get my family out of this situation. And then at the end, he just asks God, why haven't you let me Like, why haven't you given me the lotto yet? Why haven't I won it? And God said, well, you still have to buy the ticket to win it. Yeah. So it's like you do need to still put yourself in the situation. And I think that's the other thing is I was actually going to come off the back of that side of the law of attraction talk and say that there's two levels. Whether there is a physical force of that things start to come into your life, okay, it depends really on what your belief system is. Or is it that you're more open-minded, that you, as you said there, that you talk to a lot of people, that someone hears about it, you're more open-minded, you're more, when you hear something on the topic, that you lock into it more and you kind of go down that avenue, or you chat to people about it a small bit. So I think it works both ways. I really do, because I think it's kind of funny when you look back on how things fall together, that you think, Jesus, that was very coincidental that everything came together there. Or that was a huge coincidence. But I think it's the fact that you need to have an idea of where you're trying to go, and then you need to start working on it and putting it out there. And if you do, and you're positive about it, it's surprising what can happen.
Absolutely, yeah. And it mightn't happen in the time frame that you would like it to happen.
Yeah.
But it might, incrementally will you're going to be a step closer.
Yeah.
You got to jump in to swim.
Yeah, exactly. You got to buy the lotto ticket.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, no, that's a thing that I wanted to go down there massively, and it's just to go down that route of around self-awareness, being aware of the group that you're in, and the people and how they're having an effect on you, as well as your own mindset and your own frame of mind. Now, to see if you're able to remember what we were talking about at the time, I said, see if you can put a mark on that. I said, I'll interrupt you there to talk about your circle. What other forms of, or what other techniques or strategies do you use to improve your own self-awareness?
Yeah, we went a little bit off topic there.
we did, yeah. I'm throwing you back in it though now.
Okay. I don't know if I mentioned it. Routine, just basic routine. Sometimes just having those little steps laid out each day. So sometimes having those little steps laid out each day just allows you to tick the box. Okay, and just constantly have that awareness.
Do you journal or meditate?
A little bit of journaling here and there. Not so much in the last 2 years. Just didn't feel like I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Even though I know deep down I could do it, getting back into a little bit of it.
Do fall in and out of it though.
You do, and sometimes you kind of have to go with the flow of it.
Yeah.
You can't force anything sometimes, I think.
I think that finding your own way of it, like for me, I often journal, but same as that, I do fall out of the habit with it, and then I find that the sauna, to be honest, is a huge one for me. Okay. Just sitting in the sauna, nice and quiet, not taking anything in, not listening to music or anything like that. It's just nice to give you a bit of clear headspace, but it puts you're in a situation or you're in an environment that you can't really do anything else. You can read in there, you'd be sweating all over the book. I think. Yeah. Definitely. I think going for a long walk is another one.
Sorry, I probably was overthinking the I suppose the protocols that you had mentioned, reading, surfing, swimming, these little things. Surfing is a huge thing for me. I mean, yesterday I actually got out for an hour and 10. I knew I was going to be cutting it tight, but I said, look, I just want to get in the water, zone out, and you're completely embedded into it. You can't really think of anything else. You kind of you're completely mindful of everything around you.
Yeah, and
it allows you to kind of zone out. But when you come out of it, you have a good bit of clarity again. You've clear headspace. Mood is up, energy's up, and sometimes then ideas come to you. Sometimes then, you might have had a problem with whatever. Let's just say any kind of problem, whether it's work related, relationship related, anything at all. That problem, you've suddenly found a solution. So I suppose.
Yeah, that's Einstein used to use a technique. I think it was Einstein but he used it more of like a sleeping technique, and actually Hemingway used it as well, the writer. But Einstein used to hold 2 iron balls. I could be wrong in saying that it was Einstein, in his hand, and he had a pan turned upside down on the ground beside him. And what he would do is he'd sit on a chair and he would drift off. And as soon as he'd fall asleep, his hand would relax. He'd let go, and it would wake him up straight away. And that was his way of kind of disconnecting the conscious mind and letting the subconscious do a small bit of work to come back and see if he gets him or gives him any other answers or a clearer perspective on what is. I think it was Einstein. I think it also could be the guy that made it. Who's the guy who made electricity? Oh my God, man, that's so bad.
Newton?
Newton. No, I don't think it was Newton. I don't think so. Jesus, that's so bad that I can't remember it. But anyway.
Just as you were on about that, another one. These are kind of coming to me. I didn't know how to answer this question at the start. Even breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were about to sit down and do this podcast, and you were like, "Man, breathe through your nose. What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, true." But I recall like before most hurling matches, I actually tried to nasal breathe as much as I can, slow down the breath. Even when I train, try to slow down the breath, go nasal only, or here and there. Or even just at home if I'm sitting about, reading a book, whatever. Yeah, just dialing in the breath work rather than constantly, in through the mouth and out through the mouth.
Yeah.
And it kind of just gives you that it could be 5 minutes of it, less. It could be less, like, it could be 10 breaths.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just completely, like, it's like a little reset. Yeah.
It is really. I know with the writer now, I may have talked about this before, and I actually use this technique with clients for anyone who wants to try pick it up. It's basically you ask yourself a question at night. So you write a question down in a journal at night time, go to sleep, and the next morning you have it already opened and everything there, and you start writing straight away before you take anything else in. You don't look at your phone. Obviously you turn off your alarm, but you don't look at your phone. You try not to take in any information at all. And the idea of it from his perspective was that it helps to connect the subconscious and the conscious, because if you write a question out for yourself and you go to sleep, well, obviously your conscious mind can't be doing too much figuring out at that time, so the subconscious takes over. And I think the subconscious is a lot more powerful in that it's the root of a lot of emotions, a lot of thought patterns, a lot of your habits and behaviours are down there as well. So I think it's that if you're able to do that, if you can get up in the morning and you can write straight away without taking anything else in, sometimes you can get a completely different perspective on it, but more of an honest perspective on it. I don't know if you ever tried that or anything like that.
I know what you mean. No, I haven't really tried it. Not so much at all, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
it's like sport. I mean, sometimes the subconscious mind just completely takes over. You'll hit a pass, and it's not because you really had planned it as such.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just instinct, and your body, what your body chooses to do, or your body allows you to do. Yeah.
I think it's nearly like when you look at it, actually, it is what a flow state is. One of the characteristics of a flow state is that your frontal lobe, which is your thinking and planning mind, actually turns off or turns down a small bit when people are in a flow, and that it goes back to the older origins of your brain. So it's more the subconscious side of it that starts to take over. Now the actual name of the area is kind of getting away from me at the moment. I can't think of what it's called in the brain that works more when you're basically in more of a flow state. But there's a few interesting books on it. Flow by Csikszentmihalyi, I can't even say his name. There's another very good one, Rise of the Superman. It talks about big wave surfers. What's his name? Kotler, Stephen Kotler, is it?
Stephen Kotler, yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Talks about like big wave surfers, free climbers, stuff like that, where you don't really have a choice but to be in the flow state.
Even Josh White's book, Art of Learning.
Art of Learning, yeah.
Yeah, or The Inner Game of Tennis, another.
Inner Game of Tennis, actually. I must watch that one again. I must read that one again, actually.
You actually put me onto that one.
That's a very good one. The Inner Game of Tennis. Jeez, I haven't thought of that one in a while.
I can't remember who.
That's a very simple one about letting the subconscious take over. That's about learning a new skill, actually, isn't it?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Basically is.
Yeah. It has nothing to do. Well, tennis is only used as the analogy or the example for the book. It has not. You could read the book and you might have zero interest in tennis.
That's actually good. Yeah,
brilliant.
I'm gonna get back on that one. Good reminder of it. But I know that. I think that's a huge part of it. I don't know. Is there any other techniques? I know training actually coming to the gym. For me, jiu-jitsu it was out and out the best meditation for me. You do your drills, and then if you're lying there on the ground and there's a fella who's 95 kilo lying down on top of you, sweating into your mouth, you don't really have too much else to think about apart from about what you need to do next, or what the next thing is, or what the goal is. So for me, the jiu-jitsu was a disconnect. Anything else that kind of springs to mind now? Or we have covered a lot of them. So if not, there's no.
No, I know, not at all. I think just as you mentioned, any sport or any activity that really kind of pushes you a little bit. If it forces you to have to really think, and not so much think on the level where, you have to really plan it out as such. I'm talking about where you have to think about exactly what you're doing in that moment.
Yeah.
Then everything else fades away. And then that is the reset. Okay. That is, it's I suppose it's once you hit a level of discomfort, your body or your mind has no choice but to just be fairly present, because you're thinking about your breathing, you're thinking about how the pain feels, you're thinking about, what am I going to do next? You're thinking about where's me fucking water bottle. You're not overthinking anything else. And sometimes once you do that, like that is the reset. Like
yeah. I think hard exercise effort, or hard, like any type of, as you were saying, stressful situation can be a great way of getting you into that flow state and into that kind of clear mind frame, or a clear frame of mind, I suppose. But yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that is a good point about how the effort level that you put in a lot of the time dictates how much thought you can put into it. So if you're doing a tough sweat session, even at the gym, like there's not much you're thinking about. Like you're not thinking about what you have to do the rest of the day when you're on the air bike there trying to dog out 20 calories or 30 calories. Like it's a fairly clear state of mind. But yeah, I think that's a huge one. One that I wanted to move on to, I suppose, and it's kind of the last thing that we'll cover, is looking at what does health mean to you now, from, let's say, being involved in the health space, from having to overcome your own obstacles in the last couple of years. What does health mean to you at the moment?
I suppose just longevity. The idea of being able to complete all the things I can do now, perform any physical necessities now, and being able to complete them then again in 30 years time. So I want to be able to move well when I'm 50 or 60 years old or 70 years old. I still want to be able to, whether it's play with my kids or grandkids for that matter, or whatever it might be, and be able to basically, go for a hike and not be worried whether I can or can't do it.
Yeah.
To have no limitation. One of my biggest fears in life is the idea of someone having to take care of me. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'd love to be able to just, be able to take care of myself for as long as humanly possible, and be able to move well, not be restricted because of back pain or shoulder pain or hip pain or impingements. Be able to move well now and then carry that for as long as possible. That's just one aspect.
Well, mental health.
Yeah, mental, that on top of it. I mean, we all know what exercise does for us. Whether it's exercise or good food or good sleep hygiene or just good daily lifestyle habits. We know what they give us. And I suppose on a mental health level, the very same. I'd love to be able to continue to build like I suppose a database of tools and strategies that I can pass on to friends or family when they need it. I'd like to put myself in a position that I can help others. I love the idea of that. Yeah, there would be nothing worse if someone came to me and said they were struggling with a mental health aspect and I didn't have the answers. I'm not saying I need to have all of the answers, but I'd certainly like to be in a position where I know where to direct them.
Yeah.
And I know how to respond. And that again, it's not something, I suppose, that you just have. You do need to do a little bit of research. You do need to
you be involved in it.
Yeah,
really.
you'd be involved in it, or you need to have some level of awareness, or you might need a little bit of direct experience in that area.
Yeah.
So that's another area. I suppose again, it's a big question of what does health mean to me.
So I'm here.
Huh?
So that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
It's easy asking.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah.
What about you? Like, what's your?
Yeah. I think you covered all the main bases there. But what has helped to me? Honestly, the being able to do things without restrictions and being in the position that I'm in at the moment with I've picked up a lot of injuries in the last few months. And I'm not able to. We have a championship game coming up next week. I'm not able to perform in, or I'm not able to get involved because of a hamstring injury that I picked up. I think that side of things is I would love to be physically able to compete and enjoy games and play for as long as I'm around. Now obviously I understand that I'm not going to be playing football when I'm 70 years old or at the level that we're playing it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously,
but I still want to be able to play Evan aside, or I still want to be able to, if someone says to me, let's go hike Croagh in the morning.
Exactly, yeah.
That I not have to think about it twice at all.
Yeah.
Now to rebound the question back to you, what does good mental health mean to you? What does it mean to have good mental health?
Jesus, Robbie.
I know, yeah.
What does good mental
Give me a
health
chance.
mean to me? These are deep questions. What does good mental health mean to me? Yeah, what does good mental health mean to me? I'm not really quite sure if I don't think there is any right answer. I think you really have to look at the individual, what they want out of life. Because everyone will have different goals, different desires. What one person wants is going to be completely different to someone else, and you can't really define what is good mental health directly to, I suppose in a broad statement you can, but very hard to say, what's good mental health, and then tell that to a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you just got to be happy within yourself. I think, I don't know really. Yeah, you just need to be content with yourself. You need to make sure that you're not overheard. Make sure you're not complaining the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure that you're physically all there. Are you in some way active? Because the whole body's going to work at one here. I'm not really sure, Robbie.
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
Back to that.
So I let it so it would sit with you for a while. I think when you're looking at what is good mental health, it's very difficult to define, and it's different for everyone. And I think somebody who has had bad or poor mental health in the past might give you a different answer. In that, I know for me before, I always talked about how happiness is the main one. Happiness is a huge thing. You need to be happy all the time, or you need to be happy with this and that. And I was actually talking to a guy, I'd love to get him on the podcast in a while. Is basically, he was saying that happiness is a trap in a way, in that if you're always looking for happiness, you're never really content. And he said it's looking for peace and contempt and balance is kind of what his perspective on. You have to take the ups and the downs, and I think you can look at, I know Stoic philosophy is big at the moment. A lot of people look at that. It's kind of not having an opinion on a lot of things. This is the most basic description of Stoic philosophy, but it's kind of not getting bogged down, not getting too overwhelmed by anything, but also not getting too happy about anything either. So it's kind of always trying to keep that middle ground with everything. Now there'll be some Stoic philosopher listening to this now and he'll cut me apart for it, but at the same time, that's a basic way of looking at Seneca anyway. Sorry, were you going to jump in with something?
No, not at all. Okay.
So I think, as you said there yourself, I think mental health is completely dependent on the individual and what they want to achieve and what they want to go for. I know there's some people who are not happy unless they're being challenged or aren't content, and I know the other people, and depending on their background, who prefer to stay within their comfort zone and to be comfortable all the time. And because they've had enough discomfort at different stages of their life, and I've seen this in lots of different people, especially people who've had a kind of a tough upbringing, that they a lot of the time prefer, not a lot of the time, this is a massive generalization, but at times people that I've dealt with that have had a tough upbringing do tend to stay in their comfort zone. And from my perspective, I could imagine that they've been through enough shit, for lack of a better word, that it's better to stay in the comfort zone, while other people who might have a different upbringing go and they nearly seek out challenges more because it's what excites them or kind of gets them going a small bit more. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or if that even makes sense.
No, it does make sense, and each to their own. As you said, I think I love the part about balance and having that little area in between where we're not always looking for complete happiness. That, I mean, there are days where we don't feel too good in ourselves. We just naturally don't feel too good. Okay, and then there's days where we're high energy, great mood, and we can attack the day a little bit better. Love that analogy, and I love whoever that person was. I'd love to look into it a bit more, even his perspective of things. I think maybe yeah, no, say no more. I'm not going to be able to do you any more justice there.
Yeah, well, I suppose we can come back to that another time. Yeah. But today, I think we've enough covered on this podcast. Anyway, I think we went through a lot of things in a lot of detail, and I'm delighted that you actually went on to speak about that. Let's say going through that period for the last couple of years and how that has affected you and stuff. Because I know a lot of people aren't speaking about it, and hopefully there's somebody who's listened to this will, or if you know anyone who's been through something similar, definitely put this podcast onto them, because I think that now for me, I haven't been in that situation ever, but I think knowing that there's other people who have been in it and have gone through it and have bounced back from it is a huge part, is a huge should be a big kind of an uplifter, or should help at least, I guess, someone relatable in a way. I think that first off, Bryan, thanks a million for jumping on. Really, really appreciate that. I know if anyone who had seen us here for the last 15 minutes, he had no intention of jumping on there for a few minutes. This is long overdue, this podcast. So I actually had to come to the gym with the microphone and the laptop and everything to get it set up.
Pin
him down, yeah, exactly. But no, excellent podcast, man. Really, really happy with it. And thanks a million for sharing your insight. As well as your thoughts on everything, because I know it's tough to be put on the spot and ask the questions when you're not expecting it in a lot of situations. And I wasn't going easy on you with the questions either, because I couldn't be doing that to you. But yeah, thanks a million for jumping on. And is there anything you want to leave with, or anything you have to say before you go? I suppose even around, let's talk a small bit around about how can people improve their own health, their own physical and mental health. What are one or two tips that you have that worked well for you?
Oh, I won't even complicate it. Just keep it super simple. Something is better than nothing. Like literally, something is better than nothing in all areas of life. You know, if you're trying to start a business, start really small. If you're trying to, get fitter, do a 20-minute workout. Don't worry about doing an hour. If you're trying to get stronger, don't think about doing 5 days a week. Do 2.
Yeah.
We all have these high expectations of ourselves. Or we're trying to maybe we're comparing ourselves. Just don't, little bit goes a long way every day. A little bit every day, yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Perfect, man. Yeah, that's good. Atomic Habits, I suppose, make a big difference. Yeah. So it comes back to, but it has to be the most mentioned book on this podcast. But yeah, that's everything from us today, guys. Thank you so much for listening in. I would love if you could rate it on Spotify and on iTunes, as well as if you could share it on your story, or even send it to a friend who you think would be interested in this podcast. It goes a long way in promoting it and helps me to reach out to lots of different guests as well and get different opinions and different perspectives. So that is all from us today. Hope everyone is doing well. Again, thanks a million, Bryan, for jumping on. Where can people find you?
Powerhouse. I'm off the grid for the most part.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. If anyone has any questions for him, send them to me, and I'll make sure to get them on to him. But yeah, that's all from us, and I will chat to you all again soon. Thank you, Bryan.